Thank you for your time. I would like to share with you a critical comparison of the American and Nordic prison systems. My name is Candace Stubblefield, and my mentor is Professor Jason Portaverdi. Before we begin, I'd want to ask you a brief, straightforward question. There are no tricks involved. What are we, as Americans, ultimately attempting to accomplish in terms of crime? What is the end goal? Most of us would agree that the ultimate objective is to stop crime altogether, right? So if you would, please keep this in mind while we explore these new ideas. Why should the American prison system be reformed? Consider this, as of February 2021, there are over 203,865 people serving life sentences. If we keep doing things the same way, we will run out of space for inmates and resources to house them. Now, when freed, American criminals are more likely to be aggressive and to have stronger offending abilities, such as better drug manufacturing or theft operations. Americans are reluctant to devote resources to addressing the causes that cause convicts to transgress. Now, why should we base our prison system on the Nordic model? They feel that these individuals were their neighbors before they offended and that they will be their neighbors when they are released. So why not invest in increasing the quality of the neighbor being released by helping to resolve the issue? In Nordic institutions, prisoners are treated humanely. They feel that imprisonment is the penalty and that you are not there to be punished further. As a comparison, those of us with parenting abilities understand that repeatedly berating children and labeling them as terrible will only help to build the person you think them to become. And the same holds true for offenders. With nearly 2.2 million convicts, the American prison system has the largest inmate population. This is primarily due to the habit of locking up criminals and then forgetting about them. As a consequence, recidivism, violence, and escape rates are exceedingly high. The Nordic system, which consists of 5 nations, has the lowest population with a total of 17,000 individuals. Their basic aims are to rehabilitate prisoners via humanity and a reduction in sentence length. In Norway, for example, the maximum penalty is 21 years. If they have an exceptional case, they may stretch it further, but the maximum term is 21 years to get the criminal in, rehabilitated, and out. As a consequence, recidivism, violence, and escape rates are low. My hypothesis was simply, what are the fundamental and operational differences between the American and Nordic systems? To elicit such knowledge, I further inquired if there is anything unique about the Nordic system that contributes to its efficiency, and if yes, what are those distinctions? And how did the Nordic government convince their population to accept the compassionate treatment of their criminals and lesser sentences? To conduct my research, I checked into Halden Prison in Norway, and Halden is widely regarded as the most humane prison in the world, and they have begun the Little Scandinavia project in collaboration with a couple of American prisons, where they send some of our American officers to Halden to work for a few months and learn the ropes before returning to America to implement what they learned. I then conducted further qualitative secondary data study with a particular emphasis on recidivism, violence, and operational disparities. I conducted searches of published textual resources, official government documents, and data repositories such as prison websites and the university library. The data was prepared for today's presentation and after a thorough review and analysis presented to you. Several notable differences I discovered about the American prison system are as follows. The architecture of the American prisons is frequently in the panopticon style attributed to Jeremy Bentham, which is advantageous for moving large numbers of inmates at once, but the inmates' close quarters can result in irrational or angry behavior. Steel and concrete are known to intensify noises, and even the colors have been shown to elicit rage. America spends the majority of its time and money extending terms and expanding prisons to house the 756 of every 100,000 individuals who are incarcerated under strict sentencing criteria, particularly drug offenders. Furthermore, drug arrests have increased dramatically from 40,000 in 1980 to over 430,000 in 2019. 1 in 7 of the American prison population is serving a life sentence with or without parole, or a sentence of more than 50 years. Despite increased political support for jail reform, the private prison sector continues to refuse to comply, risking the closure of any of its institutions. Over half of America's inmates suffer from a mental condition that is often untreated. America is home to 1 in every 5 incarcerated individuals. What's more astonishing is that there are 194 nations with the lowest prison numbers. America is home to a population greater than that of all 194 of those nations combined. Thus, some major contrasts in prison reform that I saw between the Nordic nations and the United States are that their prisons are designed in a campus-like fashion that stimulates physical activity and simulates the daily commute people would have outside the jail. The structures have windows that allow prisoners to see the passage of time and seasons, and the materials used, such as glass to let in natural light and cork and wood to muffle noise, they are considered. These nations have the lowest recidivism rates at less than 20% compared to the US, which has a rate of 76.6%. The Nordic nations have the lowest imprisonment rates in the world at 75 per 100,000 inmates. If you remember, we said that America houses 756 of every 100,000 inmates. Nordic officials prefer to utilize fines, probation, and community service in lieu of jail, seeing it as a last resort. They feel that the treatment is critical to crime prevention and have been fortunate enough to shut down wings and even whole prisons as a result of their correctional strategy. They educate their guards for 2 years in sociology and psychology in order to provide rehabilitative help to the convicts. Each inmate is given a contact officer who will guide them through the jail experience. After being released from prison, the Nordic system provides its inmates accommodation, employment, and help in an attempt to prevent the collateral repercussions that American inmates experience after being released from prison. Known by legal officials as civil death, these consequences can include putting obstacles in the way of offenders' recovery, such as denying felons housing or employment or refusing to allow them to participate in grants and services designed to improve citizens' lives while they regain their footing in their lives. Now, oftentimes the topic of expenditure comes up when discussing rehabilitation and improving the lives of American criminals. Nevertheless, for every 1,000 we spend on improving our convicts, taxpayers can save 5,000 by the offender contributing to the economy rather than being cared for by it. As a result, by investing more in our convicts, we may expect greater return from them than if we do nothing and allow them to continue to enhance their offending talents while confined for lengthy periods of time without receiving effective rehabilitation and treatment. Now, the ultimate purpose of this research is to apply methods and procedures from the Nordic model in America, therefore putting an end to crime or stopping it as we discussed previously. To accomplish that purpose, it is critical to educate Americans about excessive overpopulation and the lack of rehabilitation in our prisons, and to expose them to the Nordic model, especially its long-term goals, treatment of criminals, and sentencing rules. The public would benefit by encouraging and supporting their politicians in their effort to effect change and to advocate for humane training for all prison staff. Adopting the Nordic approach would imply that America would begin treating drug addictions as illnesses rather than as criminal offenses. Additionally, it would also promote inmate rehabilitation and education, such as life skills development, counseling, trauma management, and substance abuse treatment. And it would entail consulting with criminal justice experts, sociologists, and psychologists to develop sentencing and treatment guidelines. That concludes my comparison of the American and Nordic prison systems. I appreciate your time and attention today, and a particular thanks to Dr. Wilson for his further assistance and direction with this study. I've included a couple of videos below for anyone interested. The first video discusses the Little Scandinavia project, while the second discusses the distinctions between our two systems. Thank you for your time.